Hello everyone, Brian here, and welcome to this post-production workflow tutorial. In this video, I'll walk you through the video editing best practices in Adobe Premiere Pro. My goal here is to help you follow along at your own speed and use this as a reference whenever needed. I want to set some expectations right off the bat. This tutorial may feel like a lot to take in, and that's completely fine. Don't panic. I'm providing this guide early in the semester so you can come back to it as you work on your projects. Treat this as a tool to make the learning process smoother and faster. Note that I'm working on a Mac in early 2025, so if you're on a PC or using a different version of Premiere, maybe an older one, the interface might look a little different. Adobe Premiere Pro is a professional video editing software used by filmmakers, content creators, and editors across the world. It's an industry standard tool for producing high-quality video content, and having proficiency in Premiere is a valuable skill to list on your resume, especially if you're aiming for video editor or digital content creator roles. Premiere is part of Adobe's Creative Cloud suite, which integrates seamlessly with other Adobe applications like After Effects for motion graphics, Photoshop for image editing, and Audition for audio editing. While we'll only be focusing on Premiere in this course, feel free to experiment with those other tools and integrate them into your projects if you have access to them. Before we dive into Premiere, let's talk about file organization. This step is critical because Premiere references file paths, meaning your media files need to stay exactly where you stored them when you import them into your project. If you move or rename those files later, Premiere won't be able to find them, and you'll encounter the dreaded media offline error. Don't worry, I'll show you how to fix that later if it happens. Here's an example of a well-organized project structure folder. First, we have an assets folder where we can put logos, still photos, storyboards, or other graphics. Next, an audio folder with music, sound effects, and any other audio files. We'd like to have a documents folder with scripts, project descriptions, or contracts. I would recommend that you download the project description for each of your assignments in this course and store it here for easy reference. An exports folder for storing rough cuts and final versions of your project. A footage folder for the video files organized by shoot date, location, or camera. And lastly, a project files folder. This is where your Premiere file, a .proj file, and all of its associated autosave files will live. Before you begin editing, make sure all of your assets are off of your SD card and stored in the correct folders on your hard drive. A solid organization system from the start will save you time and frustration later. I cannot stress this enough. Start out strong by being organized from the very beginning. When you first open Premiere Pro, you'll land on the splash page. This is where you can access recent projects or create a new one. For now, click New Project. A new window will pop up, but you only need to worry about two fields. First is the project name. You want to give your project a clear, descriptive name. The second field is right next to it, the project location. Click on the dropdown and choose Location and navigate to the Projects Files folder you just set up in your organized structure. Once that's done, click the blue Create button, and we're in Premiere proper. Premiere's interface can look overwhelming at first, but it's actually quite intuitive once you break it down. Premiere comes with several different workspace options that you can select from the Workspaces dropdown. You can adjust your workspace to better fit your screen by dragging the borders between panels to change their sizes, by popping tabs out of panels, and even by reattaching them in places that work better with your workflow. If you ever get into trouble and make a mess out of your layouts, you can always go back to the Workspace dropdown and select Reset to Saved Layout to undo the chaos you've created. For now, we'll stick with the default editing workspace. The workspace is divided into four main panels: the Project panel, the Source monitor, the Timeline panel, and the Program monitor. Let's go through each of these using an analogy, making a sandwich. This is where all of your ingredients live: footage, audio, graphics, and sequences. Think of it as your kitchen cabinets, holding everything you'll need to create your videos. You can organize the project panel by creating folders, called bins in Premiere, for each type of media. To do this, right-click and select New Bin. You'll also notice view options in the bottom left corner, such as List View and Icon View. Most professionals prefer List View because it lets you see more of your project at once. To import footage, you have 3 options. Double-click inside the project panel, click and drag files directly into the panel, or go to File, Import. Once your media is imported, organize it in Premiere just like you did on your hard drive for consistency. The source monitor allows you to preview your clips before adding them to the timeline. Think of it as pulling a jar off the shelf and giving it a smell to see if it's what you wanted. You can set in and out points, the start and end of a clip, using the shortcut keys I and O. This makes it easy to trim clips before adding them to your sequence. A sequence is the foundation of your timeline. To create one, drag a clip onto the New Item button in the project panel. Premiere will automatically match the sequence settings to your clip's resolution and frame rate. Once your sequence is created in the project panel, rename it and move it into a bin for organization. Duplicating sequences at key stages of your project is also a great way to experiment while keeping earlier versions intact. This is where the magic happens, where you assemble all your ingredients into a cohesive sandwich, or video. The timeline is divided into tracks, with video tracks on top and audio tracks below. Clips on higher video tracks will appear on top of those on lower tracks, allowing for effects like transitions or overlays. You'll also work a lot with the toolbar here. The 2 main tools are the Selection tool, shortcut V, used to move, adjust, and manipulate clips, and the Razor tool, the shortcut C, used to cut clips into smaller pieces. This shows you the final result of your work in your sequence. As you move the playhead in the timeline, the program monitor updates to display what the audience will see. If the sandwich doesn't look right here, it's time to tweak your ingredients in the timeline. To export your final project, go to File, Export, Media. Select your preferred file format. For us, we want to make sure that we're using H.264 MP4s. Set your output location to your exports folder in your project files. Choose a file name, and then click Export. We'll be looking at string outs of your projects together as a class to review your production techniques. A string out is your first assembly of all of your footage. Simply add all of your clips to the timeline in chronological order. Export this version so you can review the raw footage and identify the best elements. If you encounter the media offline error, it usually means your files have been moved or renamed. To fix this, right-click on the offline file in the project panel. Select Link Media from the dropdown, and navigate to the correct file location on your hard drive or whatever the file has been named to. This tutorial covered a lot of ground, but remember, it's here for you to reference throughout the semester. Take your time, practice, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Video editing is a skill that improves with experience, and you're already off to a great start.